All right. So, actually, no, I'm going to stop sharing. Sorry. What I want you to do is just think to yourselves back from the 4 modules that we've had on road safety auditing, and just think about one thing that you took away from those modules and any exercises or quizzes. One thing that either stood out to you as very interesting or very important, maybe something that you liked, or maybe something you didn't like, or maybe something you disagree with, but just one isolated point of a takeaway, and jot it into the chat. And then I've got 6 random things. And if what you write in matches one of those 6 random things, you'll win a prize. But it's a way for you to sort of think back over what we've covered and if something stood out. Kathy, it looks like you're being entertained by the New Zealanders.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've hit the comedy straight up. Your Mo stood out the most for me. So prize to you, James, I think.
Prize to James, very good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I send him a little lock of the bow?
Oh, no. Oh, God. Careful what you wish for, James. You might just get it. Oh, God. Okay. No, some good quality answers coming in. Oh, my gosh.
All right, lots of good stuff coming in. Yeah, just jot down anything. It doesn't need to be, what you necessarily think is the most important thing. It's just something that, maybe you thought about as you walked home or drove home or were out and saw something. Okay. All right, this is good. So let's have a read through a few of the things that have come through here. We've got slip lane stand-up angles, a very good one there. The Carl's popped in, and certainly he's been contemplating that issue more than he ever thought he would in life, I'm sure. We've got think like the road user. I think it's a great one. Daytime, nighttime. The time it takes to audit and the need to visit site. The visual deceit that can be created by lights or runs of trees. That's a great one. The structuring of an audit finding and recommendation, that formula that we talk about, that's not a check against standards. The audit formula was great again. The need to refresh New Zealand procedures with the safe system human tolerance aspect, and that's happening. The coloured template in writing an audit finding, again, those segmenting it up. A bit of interest around the VR goggle idea and the 360 and how that might be used to help out with checking area site visits. That's a good point there about, is there a real need for us as auditors to specify design standards or the like, sending this back to a designer whose job is to sort of find that and know that. It's a good point. I mean, it is very clearly an optional thing to reference it back to any standard or guideline. I like to do it to, when it's there and it's clear, just to give a bit more context to it to help out. But you don't have to do it. Certainly the one thing I think is more important is that everybody's clear that even if there is no standard or guideline, or it does meet a standard or guideline, that you should still put that issue in there if you feel it's an issue. To get out there and walk and cycle and actually feel how it is. The idea to look outside the box, and that's about it. So great. Like I love sort of seeing that people are taking things away, they're thinking about it, and it's really good outcomes there. And no doubt lots of other things, but you just picked one. But let's see, what did I have? It's just 6, as I say, random ones. It's not like they were the best or the most important at all. What did I have here? I had the proactive audit, black spot, or crash investigation, or crash reduction study. Is that reactive? Dynamic visual obstruction, masking, bicycle friendly grates, the very specific one there, pedestrian design lines. Oh, there we go. I had structure of a road safety audit, finding the formula. So Kathy, you're going to have to look back and see, because I think at least 3 people put that, something close to that down. So there's a few prizes. And then severity of injury, safe system tolerance. And I think somebody mentioned that as well with the how New Zealand's doing audits and moving things forward. So there's another prize there. So that's good. Stop sharing that one, I think. And I might bring something else up and see if anybody wants to get involved here. So let's talk about the desktop exercise, which most of you have finished now. And that was our Montrose roundabout. And what I'm going to do is bring it up, and then I'm going to see if anybody wants to volunteer to just talk about the finding that they, one of their findings, one of the things maybe they found interesting. There's a few points I want to discuss, which I think are really important. Sort of insights into road safety auditing, safe system assessments, how they interact and why we're doing both and what we're covering. No, I can't. No. So pop your hand up if you're interested in being unmuted, or giving you the ability to unmute, and you want to talk through one of the findings that you popped out there. So I've got the aerial image there, and I've got the snips of the design we looked at in there as well. So we can just have a look at that, and you can talk through any part, and I can sort of mark bits up. So Kathy, does anybody have their hand up there?
Not yet, but
we don't have anybody. I can get started with a few things that I want to point out.
Okay, we've got a winner. Lisa gets a prize.
Oh, gee, there you go. Well done, Lisa. Okay.
All right. Can you go back to the design?
Yes.
Because of the way that intersection is so skewed, that to me was problematic to be putting in a signalized intersection. And so what I commented on was the right turn out of, I guess, whatever the lower southern leg is, the right turn from the south going east.
The right, yep. So this one going.
Yeah, and just how the hell that was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, how far they're, you know, for one thing, I thought they're either gonna, and especially a heavy vehicle, how far they're gonna have to swing. Are they gonna hit that central median? And if they hit that central median, could be a pedestrian standing there. And also if they swing wide, how that works with the southbound left slip lane. So yeah, a number of issues there.
Yeah. I think that's a really great point. That's not going to be a nice maneuver. Very challenging.
No, even
And
for just a vehicle, I mean, a regular vehicle, much less a heavy vehicle. Yeah.
yes, and really well pointed out about the multiple issues that it could possibly cause. And quite a few people in their desktop audits had issues that were generated as a result of this skewed intersection, and the fact that it comes in at that odd angle. So really great point there. Thank you, Lisa. That's
No
a good one.
worries.
Did somebody else want to discuss one? Oh, everybody wants on board now. Lisa, you've paved the way for people. Okay, who have we got now? Etienne.
Mate, how you going? Firstly.
Good. How are you?
Yeah, love and kicking. Thanks. I love and kicking. Now, I didn't mention this in my actual audit report, but one of the key things that sort of struck me as strange here was the placement of these bus stops in close proximity to that intersection, number one. And number two, if you have a look at pretty much the same area that, so that one that you've just highlighted now.
Yeah.
So what they've done there is, to the south of that location, they've got this sort of hatched median that or hatched shoulder that they've got marked out there. And then they put the bus stop at that location. And then you think to yourself, okay, listen, if I'm a left turner coming out here and my focus is on that first lane coming at me from the right-hand side, southbound, and the next moment I have to try and merge right there into an adjacent lane because now I've got a bus stop that's right there. It just struck me as strange that they thought that putting these bus stops so close to that intersection is going to be beneficial for the road user, or for the users in general, between pedestrians and then versus these turning conflicts that they've got coming at them.
Yeah. I know. I think it's a great pickup, and quite a few people were interested in the bus stop locations, and you do get this trouble with that slip lane, especially when and this one, which quite a number of people sort of pointed out, this is going to be fast, and you're going to really be ripping around there, aren't you? Both of them really, because you've got that angle, and then you're straight into a potential bus, and we know that buses, stop to pick up people, but they often can stop to get their timetable back in schedule, or wait and these sort of things, and that's where they're going to be doing it. So
yeah.
I think it's a really great pickup. I think a bit of challenges sometimes are associated if we do move it down here, that the pedestrians desire line there as opposed to all the way there to come back to get their bus. But I think, really great audit finding and pick up and thinking about how it's going to be used as well. Excellent. Thank you.
No worries.
And I think there was another hand up, wasn't there, Kathy?
No, that was just Lisa from earlier. So unless anyone else wants to jump in at this stage. Heather, welcome.
Hello, Heather.
Mute. Hello?
Hello. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I noticed something that I also didn't put in my assignment, and that was the existing traffic signals, pedestrian crossing traffic signals on the east side. I noticed that that's being removed. So what's going to happen with the crossing point over here? Is it transferring to the traffic signals now, or? I'm just not quite sure whether there was thoughts on the pedestrian connectivity as well, because where are we?
Yep. And it's a great finding and a great pickup, and some people did pop that into their report, and that was really one where some people actually in the 360-degree footage, your sort of pseudo site visit, saw people crossing. They saw there was movement happening there. There was a real sort of movement, that perspective, but also down here, there's where the school is. There's another one. So it's a real one where we've got to think about where pedestrians are, where they're going, where they want to go, and is it sort of reasonable for us to think that pedestrians are going to walk down here, cross, and then come back all the way to there, especially if they've got off the bus back here, or maybe they're coming from the park area down here. So that's part of getting out there on site and feeling that and understanding it, and understanding whether you think it's reasonable. So I think that, another really good finding to point out, and possibly, giving some suggestions on ways that might be improved. Could be retaining those signals, having closer signals. It could be ways to try to encourage more for make it easier for people to get across. So either the access points sort of come out here of the park or something like that. We can open up our thinking quite broadly into what can be done. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else there? Well, there was an interesting one that a couple of people put in, which I think is an important one for us to always continue to push on, and that is the sort of fundamental removal of a device that's going to slow vehicles down, being the roundabout, and replacement with a set of traffic signals, which is going to reduce the likelihood of crashes, but not the severity of crashes, and in fact the severity will go up. So that's a very sort of safe system assessment style finding and the like, but our audits need to be able to stand back and look at the whole scheme, but also then get into the details of things like the stand-up angle of that slip lane, or these slip lanes, which is going to be very tough for drivers to crank their head around, or the swept paths, which was beautifully pointed out there, the lanes lining up where they are aligned to, the positioning of the bus stop. So there's more detailed stuff, but also that bigger picture, the speed, the energy stuff. So we want to integrate all of that into road safety auditing. You probably saw some of the differences in the way you put together that audit finding. It can be far more detailed than a safe system assessment, where you're sort of just pointing out different areas that are influencing risk. These are honing in on the details of some of the specifics around this. For some of those issues, as I say, I feel it's appropriate to refer back to standards and guidelines if you can, but it's not a mandatory thing to do. So don't be too caught up on that. But things like, as I say, stand-up angles is one where there's really quite a lot of good guidance around that. Yeah, so I thought it's an interesting one. It's an just real design, and interestingly, we did a safe system assessment on this design. We didn't do a road safety audit on it. I don't think there'd be any surprises to any of you about what the safe system assessment was saying in terms of the energy. The scores certainly went up. And of course, we were recommending, well, if you want to be doing this, I mean, obviously options to signalise the roundabout to try to continue to keep that speed reduction, the angle improvement. But if you really need to go to these signals, that they should be raised, it should be a raised intersection. And to show you, so then the raised intersection was designed up, and then to show you the challenges that we're still facing here and you're still facing, no doubt, is that there was a lot of pushback on that. A lot of the real traditional pushback of, it's going to destabilize cars approaching it, heavy vehicles, noise. This is not a infrastructure issue. This is a driver skills issue, and they need to learn how to drive and not run red lights, and all those things that we go, some of those we go, well, they haven't played out in reality when these have been built. Some of them we go, well, it's part of the fundamentals of the safe system that we understand people are going to make mistakes, and we've got to try to be managing the whole area. And in the end, they're going to put out a contract to build this without raised safety platforms, with some minor sort of tweaks on it, which, they've pretty much stopped talking to us, that region, because of the way we've been pushing back and challenging them. But we're gonna face that. So let's keep fighting for it. But I thought it was a good one then for everybody to have a look at from a more detailed perspective. Okay. Any questions or comments at this stage before I jump into a few little slides? And then, as I said, some sort of case studies of different audits that we've done and things we've found.
Good stuff, Ken. No questions at this stage, but people are keen for the case studies. So,
okay, that's good. Everybody loves a case study.
Love a case study. Thank you.
Some of them are little in-depth case studies. Some of them are very just quick photo style case studies. Right. Let's find a little bit of content to cover, and some of it is going to be of interest to you. Some of it is going to be of more relevance to you. The reason I say that is that talking to you about accreditation, legal liability in a general sense. Of course, I am not a legal expert, and I'm certainly not a legal expert in New Zealand. But the general principles, I think, are fairly sound in some of the stuff I want to talk about. But let's jump into seeing what we've got here. But of course, keep your questions coming in. So we really want to know about some of the requirements in different jurisdictions for road safety auditor accreditation or the like. And I do that for your interest. And I'll show you some of the ones that are certainly open and available to New Zealanders. If you want to get yourself accredited from a different jurisdiction, not that it's a specific requirement for doing road safety audits in New Zealand to be on some sort of accredited list at this stage. It might be something that that is looked at, and just some of those legal risks for both auditors and those procuring audits. So let's start with those potential legal issues. And I'm going to start with the auditors. The auditors. You as a road safety auditor going out there, what are some of the potential legal issues? So the first thing is that you are often asked to undertake an audit for a client, and that could be a road controlling authority, but it could be a developer. And the road controlling authority is asking for that audit to be undertaken, but asks the developer to engage the auditor and the audit team. And there's this fear that we have of this thing we sort of termed a client-focused road safety audit, or some people call it a soft road safety audit. And the scenario goes along the lines of maybe your client is a large hardware chain, big box hardware chain, and they've got lots of stores all over New Zealand, and they're planning to open up many, many more, and you've been asked to be the road safety auditor because the road controlling authorities asked for this, and the road controlling authority has said, well, yes, you're going to have to build signalized intersections or the like in order to access your new development that you're building. That's our sort of planning requirements on you. And through that process, we want a road safety audit undertaken, and that the developer then engages you and says, all right, well, this is what we're planning to do, and we don't have any extra funds here. We're on an extremely tight budget, and really no order findings that are going to, we're happy to change some signs and line marking and things, but we can't be doing extra pavement. We can't be doing, any more civil works or drainage, and we've got these problems with these areas. So don't do any of that. Just give us, signs and lines issues only. Of course, you can all see, and you're all in the space of safety as number one, and we're going to, sure, we promote development happening, but in a safe manner. But you can see the temptation out there. There might be that you make this one easy for them, and then there's another one, and there'll be lots of them across New Zealand to be doing. It's more of a concern we have, a fear we have in this space. I did a review of about 50 road safety audits for developers in Victoria, and I couldn't find any evidence of this. I found some ordinary road safety auditing, but I couldn't bring it back to this sort of stuff. It was more what I felt was maybe auditors that needed a bit more experience, a bit more training, a bit more development, rather than that sort of corruption style. But anyway, I flag it as a potential, something to always be thinking about. If the auditor was given an inadequate brief and really didn't ask for more information to help do an informed audit, that again could be a little bit of an issue for an auditor. Obviously, misleading qualifications or experience is, it's going to be a bad thing across most industries, and this is no exception. Then not following the correct process, so maybe not going out there in the daytime and the nighttime if that was part of the audit brief, not visiting the site and just doing it via Street View when that is part of an audit, and not following any quality management system processes that are in place within your organisation. And then, in Victoria, which is the one that I've had some involvement in the legal system, we're held to a reasonable assessment as auditors. Now, what is reasonable, that plays out in the court, but would peers have picked up these issues? Is it expected that this sort of stuff would be picked up? Is it a reasonable report? So that one sort of plays out. So that's the auditor and some of the possible implications there. As for the customer, the road controlling authority, the procurer of the audit report, well, if there is an inadequate brief and it's sort of either intentionally holding information back from the audit team for them to be able to do their job, that could come back to the client. Requesting specific recommendations is also a no-no. You let the auditors do what they're going to do and find what they're going to find and recommend what they're going to recommend. I'm not too concerned if a client asks for a focus on a particular thing, or we've had trouble with these, and I sort of take that on as extra information. But when they say things like, we're trying to convince the residents or the local government that this is an issue, so can you make sure you write this, find this issue and write up this recommendation. I'll say, well, no, I can't guarantee you anything, and I'll look at it, and we'll get out there as a team, and if we think it's an issue, we'll report it. If we don't, we won't. Then there's that sort of duty to consider this report when it comes in and accept, reject, or defer recommendations, but ignoring these reports and putting them in the drawer and ticking a box to say, well, we did an audit and you didn't actually do anything with the recommendations and the findings is obviously an issue with the process with the organisation and something that could be, from a legal perspective, brought back onto that road controlling authority or customer. The legal systems generally, and this is a principal thing again, are sympathetic to lack of resources. They understand that there is not infinite funds available, but what they're not sympathetic towards is any sort of randomness in decision making. They want to see a systematic process of deciding what will be done, what will not be done. The road safety audits help out in that risk rating, so that's giving an indication of what's more important, what's potentially less important, and then maybe some costings associated with that. But they do want to see that prioritization and that systematic process. Doesn't mean you have to do absolutely everything, but a good documented reason why things were or were not done, or other things were done instead. And then again, back to this funny legal word of reasonable process. Now, I'll take any questions or comment on possible legal things. Again, as I say, I might have to give my opinion on a few things, but certainly not provide legal advice.
Maybe we'll just give people a minute to have a think of any questions. There's nothing so far, Ken.
Okay. Well, if anything else pop up as we're going, we can always jump back to it. The next little thing I want to just cover off is this sheet, which we've put into Memory Stick and on Schoology, which is trying to summarize all of the different Australian jurisdictions' road safety audit accreditation process. Now, this was done a year and a bit ago. I got a colleague to do it. Interestingly, on there, and I don't have it on this slide, New Zealand does have a line about what some of the requirements are, and I'm not 100% sure where that has come from. So if anybody does know whether you do have any sort of requirements, you don't have a register as such, but what you require, actually, it might be in your actual document. As I say that, I'm having a memory of something in your document which specifies some experience. But that's in there, so you can gather a bit of understanding of what different jurisdictions require. So, for example, Victoria, basically to become a road safety auditor, you just basically need to do this course or an equivalent course. Be working generally in the industry, so prove you're not like a bartender that's come to the course, although you've got to pass some requirements. So, and then you're in as that entry-level road safety auditor. Then there's a second level. There's a graduation there to a senior road safety auditor, which requires 5 years experience in either road design, traffic transport management, road safety engineering, road user behaviour, and that you have done 5 road safety audits, 3 at design stage. Queensland's fairly much the same, except for they don't let these entry level in. They require 5 years experience to become a road safety auditor. And yeah, the South Australians are a bit more like the Victorians. So that's in there for you to have a look at. Austroads is about to release the new Part 6, well, within sort of months, hopefully. And it's tried to make some uniform requirements for this sort of stuff. and then it's up to each jurisdiction to adopt it or not adopt it. But we're getting word that most are happy to adopt it, and it'll be a trainee level auditor, a road safety auditor, and a senior road safety auditor. And there's a category in New South Wales called a team leader, but the Austroads guide coming out will just basically say the team leader is a senior road safety auditor that has been appointed for that specific audit as team lead, not that it's your sort of accreditation category. So I'll just take you through how to become an accredited auditor in Victoria, which you are eligible to do should you want to. There is, you can get on the register, add it to your resume if that's something you would like to do. But to do a road safety audit in New Zealand, you wouldn't have to do that, of course.
And can we just jump back a minute to a legal related question that has come through before you jump into that?
Yep.
No? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Can we get some examples of residual risks that the courts have found reasonable or not reasonable?
Residual risks. I'm not sure.
Do we want some more information?
Yeah, a little bit more information on that.
Okay.
Yep.
We might come back to it. No, that's okay. We'll come back to it again.
The ones that I have been involved in from a legal perspective, both as a road controlling authority representative and as an auditor, and being sort of pulled in as either expert witness or as the auditor of a site that had some legal issues, have really revolved around the road controlling authority. One was just all about inadequate processes and systems in place. And to be fair, at some points we did not have great systems in place, and audits had been done and not acted upon, with sort of major projects working away and getting audits done because we'd had a policy and they did the audit. They didn't do anything with the audits. They just got them and said we did an audit. And so that was one. We had one where there was no clarity around when you would make a developer do a road safety audit and when you wouldn't. And there was a development that did not get a road safety audit. It was a big subdivision accessing onto the arterial road network. It did not get a road safety audit. It opened up, and within a month there was a fatality. And we, as a road authority, were really heavily condemned by the coroner, as we probably should have been, for the fact that our road safety audit policy had no clarity around developer-funded works. Back at the time, this was 15 years ago or something. So that was rectified. And there were some clear warrants on when a development triggered the need for an independent road safety audit and when it was small enough that it didn't. The ones from a client perspective, from a consultant style perspective, have been really around specific issues and whether it's acceptable or not for a road authority to let that's through. So longitudinal grates, as I said, 2 of those have come up. Local governments have been subject to quite a bit in Victoria because we have this. It wouldn't apply in New Zealand because you've got your ACC, which would cover shared paths and footpath related injuries. But in Victoria, we have the Transport Accident Commission, and they will only pay out to injured parties if a motor vehicle is involved, because that's where they get their funds. So bike rider runs into bollard on shared path, TAC not contributing to any injury and the like. So this is where the road controlling authority of the shared path has been held legally liable in that case. And then so we've been involved in road safety auditing shared paths to try to identify some of those issues and understanding the reasonableness of polls and their need compared with their potential safety issues, and those sorts of things. And again, just again, another one where an auditor undertook a road safety audit, missed an issue, and we were asked to sort of do this retrospective look at a road safety audit as to whether it was reasonable or not to be missed, this issue. And it was a bit of a weird sort of process, but anyway, the auditor was found to be have done a reasonable job, albeit did a reasonable process and did a but maybe it was sort of accepted as a reasonable audit in that sense. Okay, so I mentioned levels of accreditation. Yeah, in a lot of jurisdictions do a road safety auditor and a senior road safety auditor, try to have this graduated system and continued mentoring of road safety auditors. And I think that this group's probably got a very keen interest in ensuring that that there's a continual generation of people who are building their skills and knowledge around road safety engineering, crash investigation, road safety auditing and the like. And you do need to learn from the people who have been around for a while, know the background on things. And so that audit team with a senior road safety auditor, who may not be, older, it could be younger, but less experienced in that sense. I could swap these around. But and so the road safety auditor can't do an audit by themselves. They have to have a senior auditor leading and mentoring and guiding. So Victoria, just got to do this course. You've got to generally be in the industry to become a accredited road safety auditor. To be a senior auditor, you've got to do those 5 years experience and 5 road safety audits. And in Victoria, so this was one, again, talking about having challenges within a road controlling authority. I was at Vic Roads, and this was about 12 years ago. I wanted to set up our register road safety audit because we used to hold that in an internal database. And so it had just been this constant annoyance of developers and people wanting to find a road safety auditor and calling us up. And then, we didn't want to be favouring one over the other. So we'd sort of go, here's a list of 10. And, it was a mess. So I said, well, let's make a public register. I'm sure the auditors will be happy with that. And then the process to get a extra page put onto the Vic Roads website to have a register was not something that I was prepared to go through. So I just created a standalone off the grid website, vrsa.com.au, stands for Victorian Road Safety Auditors.com.au. I don't know why I decided .com.au, .org or something would have been better. But anyway, it is what it is. And yeah, we created that and we made it look like a Vic Roads website. And I tell this because it's a fun story about how much trouble I got in after doing this. But the thing is, it's lasted about 12 years and it's still going fine. And we've got ARB sort of managing just the administration of it. Anyway, the first thing that you see when you go to this is a disclaimer. And this is quite pertinent to what New Zealand would go through if you're considering putting a register together and accrediting auditors or anything like that. Because this disclaimer says, here's a big list of road safety auditors and we can't guarantee any are any good. But what we can guarantee is that they've done the course and they've got 5 years experience and they've ticked these boxes. But you need to, make a judgment as, so we say they've met some requirements. We haven't actually rigorously assessed their competency. And that's always the fear with these registers and things like that, is that there's people on here who probably aren't the most experienced and the most thoughtful auditors or audit with no safe system thinking, and how do you weed them out? Victoria's actually just included now an e-learning module on safe system that all auditors are going to have to complete. It's fairly short, but just to contextualize safe system within auditing, which we've got in the course now, but there's so many people on this register that, did courses well before any sort of safe system integration into auditing. Anyway, you go into that and you can see there's the page, and the first thing that you would do if you wanted to register as an auditor, you just click on register auditor accreditation, takes you to this next page, which says, do you want to register as a road safety auditor or a senior road safety auditor? And normally when I run this course with people who are sort of newer to the game, I always say, so all of you will be registering as road safety auditors. Actually, with this group, I think some of you would be registering as senior road safety auditors if you wanted to go down that registration track. Then you fill out information of this, and we popped in there this. Oh, sorry. I'm going all over the place here. That's one wally, by the way, that you're counting every time you've seen it in the last 5 seconds. I just wanted to do this. We've got this hide from public checkbox. So you don't want the public to see, your phone number or these sorts of things. Of course, you can hide it from the public. And then, once you've got all that in, it goes in, they just have a look at the minimum requirements. You've done all the right things and you're on the register. And then you can log back in and you can add information, change information and the like. So this is also publicly available to search for a road safety auditor. And you can search by name, by organisation, by required expertise. And this one's really take it with a grain of salt because it's self-proclaimed expertise. It's a lot of people who tick all the boxes because they don't want to miss out on the filtering. And again, probably an area that could be, have a lot more attention. But then there's just a big list of auditors. And this is sort of what you see. Anybody who's pending, it probably just means they haven't uploaded an audit in the last year and their senior status is been revoked until they upload that audit, or they've just applied and somebody's just going through and picking the information. I'll just quickly click on myself here, and these are going to be old snips of this, but some information, who you are, contact details, some background on professional experience if people, if you want to show it and people want to see. Road safety audit expertise. There you go. Tick lots there. I've been auditing for a long time. I did not tick workplace, worksite traffic management plans. I'm not professing expertise in that space. Regions to work in, that's a very Victorian thing, just whether people maybe only wanted to work in one region or another. And then this is all people see. Oh yeah, this dates the slides immediately. But this is all people see of audits that you upload, when the audit was done, what your role was, the date, the client name, and what it was. So that's a feasibility bicycle audit. So that was a proposed shared path facility on Phillip Island. In things that people don't see are more contact details about the client. You don't actually upload the audit reports. If anybody wanted to audit the auditors, they would then request and get the information and check that. And a certificate from, scan of the certificate from this course. Yeah, so you're welcome to register if you wanted to go down that track. If you do and it needs a Victorian address, you either just put, you can just put the Safe System Solutions address, which is fine, or you can put the VicRoads head office address. There's no drop down of another country, but everybody just puts either our address or Vic Roads, which is fine. South Australia's got a less sophisticated one, which is that they just have a Word document which you download, fill out information, send in, and then about every 6 months they just put out a new PDF of a list of auditors, so you can also get on that one. There's no, you don't have to be a South Australian to do that. So if you want to just collect yourself lots of accreditations in different jurisdictions, go nuts. And this course is accepted in South Australia, Queensland, Victoria, Tasmania, not New South Wales though, because they're a rogue jurisdiction. Any questions on that?
And what if someone goes bad? Can they be struck off the list?
So nobody has ever been struck off the list. Could
That
they
you know
think?
of?
Sorry?
That you know of?
That I know of. That's true. Yeah, that I know of. Because the list is not a competency-based list, it would be very hard to do that. What, like the Victorian government does at least, is have a pre-qualification system, which is, so the company itself would get a black mark against its name. So to do a road safety audit for the Victorian government, your company needs to be pre-qualified. So it needs to have the right insurances, it needs to have the right quality management system, and anybody who does the audit has to be a road safety auditor on the register. If dodginess was to be found out, or really poor, just ridiculously poor performance, the mechanism in Victoria at least is to give a black mark on the pre-qualification of that company. And I think they have 3 strikes and you're out of that category. But again, that's sort of a theoretical thing. I really have not heard of that. Certainly not in the road safety audit space happening. In the construction space, I think there's been a bit more. Good question though. No, but these are all sort of, why have I talked about this? Well, it's really because I know there's a bit of interest in New Zealand around the possibility of a register of road safety auditors, a register of safe system assessors. And these are the practical challenges that you face with setting anything like that up. It's the resources, it's the checking of competency, or do you actually do a genuine competency check, or do you do a the sort of entry gates of attended the course, passed the course. Now, passing the course has a competency check as such, but do you do continuing professional development? All the challenges. Anything else there, Kathy?
No, that's all for now.
Awesome. Okay. By popular demand, case study time. How do I do this? Okay. So road safety audits, a post-opening road safety audit is a legitimate thing to do after construction, to see if if any issues are presented. This is an interesting case study. So this is on an arterial road, a state-controlled road in Victoria. And we're approaching we've been driving along a road here with an 80-kilometre speed limit for about the last 5 kilometres. Kind of a windy road, and it starts to open up here. and we're driving on. And so you're driving along and you see there a barrier line, so no overtaking. And yeah, not too much of note there. Don't get too concerned about the car that's out there. That's our car, the audit team that was we just parked it out there for get it out of the way. So let's move forward a little bit. Okay, we're driving forward a bit. Okay, now we've got an overtaking opportunity. And okay, we can see something far off in the distance there. There's something way down there. Looks like an intersection way down there. There's a speed sign. It's a bit covered up. Can't see what that is. Something there as well, but nothing seems to be too different there. Let's go a little bit forward. Let's go a little bit further forward. Okay, yeah, no, I'm seeing that. Okay, still can't quite see the speed. It's probably an 80. We've been seeing 80s for a long time. Maybe it's something else. We'll keep going a bit further forward. Oh, okay, it's a 60. And what else have I got here? There's something interesting as I've just come over this little crest. Let's go a little bit further forward. Okay, I've got a traffic hazard ahead sign. And my 60, and there's something odd going on here. Let's just go up a little bit further forward. Okay, we've got a traffic island there. It's obviously being struck, and it used to have some signs on it that are gone. Let's go back a little bit further. We'll go back again. Just having a look at this for a little bit. I'm going to ask anybody to point out what they believe might be an issue here. I'm going to show you also, because a nighttime inspection is always a good thing to do. So this photo from night. There you go. Okay, let's see if anybody has got any comments about what might be going on here, if they've got any concerns. I would imagine that some of you have some concerns here. Okay.
Do you think? I started even before you showed the first picture.
Yeah, and like this is great. Like the experience of this group is great. I do this exercise often with some groups of more, newer people in the industry and building their knowledge and understanding, and they can scratch their head quite a while at something like this to try and understand what some issues might be. Okay, so this is good. So the fundamentals people are talking about there are, I'm not going to go through everything, I don't think. I think we've got everything that we found, I think, has been covered. So yeah, wow, good stuff. Okay. The lateral shift there, and again, this is, you've got to be on site to sort of see this. The lateral shift is far too great. This is, yeah, the lateral shift's just it's a bit hard to see. So that's one odd one. The fact that the crest is there is a bit of a challenge. The lighting's not there. The reflectivity of the island itself, no RRPMs. The sign's obviously gone. When the signs are there, they're good. But there's something more fundamentally challenging, and it is more associated with that lateral deflection. And there's sort of odd, this layout, there's something odd about it. And it was funny, my colleague and I, Jamie, who presented, we were standing out there, we're going, there's just something boggling our minds about this. And we finally twigged what was going on. That this is a channelized right turn lane that has been flipped over. So a channelized right turn lane really should look like this. And sorry, drop my little pen. The channelized right turn lane has been flipped over in a sense, not just that. So a channelized right turn, when you're approaching, you should approaching from this end. You should not deviate off your line. Or it should be if you have to, you make a very sort of subtle deviation. There is a slightly greater deviation off it and sharper. I think you can do a sharper one going this direction and deviate that way. Just because you've got that extra, ability to slow down and propping and all of that. So we looked at this and we're like, this is amazing. Like somebody has flipped the diagram and then built it and flipped it so much that they didn't even change the line marking around. They flipped the line marking too, giving you the ability to overtake on the approach to a physical island. So if you go back and take my scenario again, you've been driving along behind a truck or something for the last 5 kilometers and you want to overtake, and here's your sort of first overtaking opportunity. You've been behind the truck, you don't know what's coming up. All that's happened is the line marking has subtly told you, hey, now's your chance, nothing dangerous coming up. And out you go and passing the truck and obviously then finding yourself in big trouble. The magnitude of sort of issues this brings up is big. I mean, obviously, this is actually a pedestrian refuge. There's not a huge amount of pedestrians using it. Obviously, they're hitting it quite a lot. The second one is that extreme lateral deviation to get through this, where it's just completely unexpected. So the question, like that I'm sure all of you are asking, is how on earth is something like this actually getting built without? Now, as we understand, the process went that they had their approval on a channelized right turn lane. And of course, some of you have probably thought about this already. They got lots of services running along under here. And they sort of made a decision within their construction to save themselves an absolute heap of money by not having to relocate all the underground services and move things to widen on that side. And so trying to utilize this in some odd arrangement. So unfortunately, the Road Control Authority processes didn't weed this out before having to get there at this stage. You'd think a surveillance officer or whoever's sort of overseeing this might have picked some things up during this point. Yeah, but this is one where, as a road safety auditor, that we didn't, take the time to write. We certainly wrote a report, but it was straight on the phone to the authority and saying, you've got to get out here and do something significant immediately, immediate danger to the public. So it wasn't going to wait the sort of week for us to write up a very polished report, which did come and then obviously this got removed and I've got to get the photos of sort of how it's sort of sitting at the moment, but there's still no physical island there. I think they're still fighting about it. So that sort of shows the auditors trying to unpack a little bit more about why the issue's there, but certainly acknowledging that there is the significant issue there. So there was a bit of commentary around that. People are not happy to see that. That's good. People do think it's nuts, absolutely. A very vivid one, I think, very clear example. Something that's far less severe as an issue, and you know, how you bring it up. It's certainly a post-opening road safety audit. Sometimes existing conditions is sort of this incorrect use of signage, and you know, this one in particular, again, a bit of a Victorian standard use of a sign. You end 110, which is a sign saying it now reverts back to the default speed zone. On the approach to an area where you've got to give way, just again, is the red circle shouldn't be there in the first place, but why are we telling people speed limits on the approach to a point that they have to yield, have to give way? That's how they changed it, which is correct, but it's actually not even required. Yeah, so I'm getting a comment here from Kevin that would count as 110 in court. Potentially would, wouldn't it? Number with a red circle around it, likeness of a speed sign, I think is the and Mark's made the absolutely wonderfully valid point. Why mark the end of it? The whole generation of the end sign in Victoria, in fact, I think it's in the Australian standard, is so you don't post an inappropriate speed limit. So what you actually, the real use of that is where you are in, say, a township that's entering into a windy, narrow road that you have a default 100 km/h. What you do is you put an end 60 sign so as to not post it at 100, you know, so people don't think of it as a target, or, you know, that they actually can drive 100. You're saying revert back to default. Some jurisdictions, and correct me if I'm wrong, New Zealand use a de-restriction sign. We did focus groups on the de-restriction sign. A lot of people said in our focus group, the public said that they thought it meant there is no speed limit. So we thought, well, that's not good. Anyway, so that's the that's the reasoning why you go the N60 or the N whatever back to default. It becomes very odd with 110. So I would agree in this case. Why would you even put that there? They're going to hit there. They're going to turn the corner, give them either a speed sign later. But the audit sort of philosophy concern I've got is more around this style stuff. Putting your speed limit sign gives a subtle clue, and they'll never be able to articulate this, but subconsciously people think that the road continues because speed signs are at the start of the road. This is where you're going, the continuation of a road. They're not put on the approach to a point where you are going to need to stop your way. And so this sort of just adds to our contribution of, you know, maybe tired, maybe raining, maybe not familiar with the area, maybe looking at the GPS or and that could play into that a little bit. So another example there of just these little bits to think about. Now, another interesting little case study here. This one, I'll give you the background. I don't know how are we going on time, Kathy? Yep. Oh, hang on. Were we meant to finish 13 minutes ago, or have I got 15 minutes?
Yeah, we're going real well on time. No, another 15 minutes tops, Ken. So maybe 10 minutes so we can just run through some little bits and pieces. Thanks.
Okay. I do this one, which I think it's interesting on a number of levels. So this was a This was a local government who wanted to get speeds down on this bit of road, which is it's actually quite a residential area. That photo doesn't look so residential, but it's beachside. It's got sort of lifestyle blocks, but they're quite a lot of them. So it's quite populated with people walking, people cycling, cars, and the local government wanted to reduce the get operating speeds down through here. So they put in local area traffic management treatments, they decided to go with one-way slow points, which I tend to like as a treatment, and I think that this is quite a neat solution. Now, the reason we were asked then to come in and do a post-opening road safety audit was that there was a lot of residents complaining about this treatment, and the council was saying it's fine, the residents saying it's not, and the audit was really done as more of an independent judgment of, well, is it bad, is it not? All right, well, we're not going to rip it out based on your opinion, but you don't believe. Let's get some independent. They did a very interesting stakeholder management exercise, which I thought was quite smart. The local government said, what we'll do is we'll get an independent road safety audit done, but we are going to let you as a community choose who audits it from this list of 10. I think they picked 10 audit companies off the list, and gave the power to the community to choose. So it didn't look like council was getting their like the person who had worked at council for 30 years and has just become an independent auditor in retirement or something, and come back and So anyway, the residents decided on getting us involved, and we went out and we had a look at it and came back with our report. And I mean, the audit itself was picking issues. We did make some general commentary and a covering note to talk about the success of the treatment. And overall, we said it's actually doing a really good job. It's slowing speeds. It's decently designed. There's definitely some room for improvement. And it's got the sort of areas where pedestrians and cyclists could walk past with a bit of design improvement and a little bit more work. So it's got what I'd call a bike bypass or a pedestrian bypass area, so they're not getting squeezed in there. And but then we did pick some specific issues up around its visibility. They're not lit, so that becomes quite a more of a challenge there to see things at night. So there it is at night. So yeah, you're not getting. It's got the RRPNs. It's got some delineation. You're certainly not seeing the back of the sign there. You're not seeing the curbing as such. So some concerns around that. The fundamentals, then there's sort of the write-up of that specific finding. I like to draw little diagrams, try and help people. That was actually something I noted out of quite a number of the audit findings that you were producing, was you were really great with diagrams and snips and making it super clear and easy to read and understand. So, yeah, lighting is a requirement for any vertical change like this. So they're not meeting that requirement. We noted that, but I don't have as much concern about that. I mean, we certainly noted it as a risk factor. It's more that how visible the whole treatment is. Okay, how are we going there? I won't get too much into barriers. That is actually not that's a lagging wally. I'm crossing that wally out. No wally there, no wally to be seen. Yes, so end terminal, incorrect terminals, and road safety barriers are just an absolute field day. and you can get so much technical detail about barriers, and certainly something that we do a 3-day course on barriers, similar to the courses that are offered in New Zealand. I won't get into too much of the barrier stuff because I'll give Kathy time, but I do have lots of barrier related goodness to talk about. I better stop before Kathy, tell the group how they can finish off this course, get their certificate, and provide feedback on what they might, if they were successful on a prize or two, how they might get that prize or the like.
Excellent. Thank you, Ken. So what we have here is the course in Moodle, which you've all become very familiar with. Thank you. So once you get out and do your site visit and you write up your road safety audit report, remember it was just 3 findings, so don't go bananas there and do more than that. Ken loves to mark more than that, but he doesn't need to. So you submit it.
On that, Kathy, sorry to jump in.
Oh, you do want more?
No, I don't. I certainly don't. What I did notice though was quite a few auditors for quite a few participants for the audit we did at the Montrose roundabout removal and signals actually packed in what I would consider like 3 or sometimes 4 audit findings into one. And it was far more voluminous than it needed to be. You did far more work than you needed to. So you can be very just like take one segment. So hopefully it'll be a bit quicker for some of you who really put in quite a bit of information. It was great stuff, don't get me wrong, but it was sort of, carry on.
Thorough, very thorough. Okay, so submit it in here, and if you have any trouble with that, just email it through to me. We've made it due next Friday afternoon for another fun weekend of marking at your place, Ken.
I'm excited.
So good. So there's that there, and there's one last quiz in here, the Module 6 quiz for you to do. Once Ken has marked your road safety audit visit as well as any other assignment. So if you have not quite gotten in every last bit of assignment just yet, do so, and then he'll mark those. So once they're all marked and you complete this short course feedback survey here, like magic, your road safety audit certificate will appear here. So it means you need to do all the bits and pieces and achieve the required grades in order for your electronic version of your certificate, which will appear here once all those things are done. And then we will also put in the post to you a hard copy as well as any prizes and some fresh prizes on the go as well. So your last assignment is due next Friday. If you can't get it in by that time for any reason, just get in touch with me and finish off all your quizzes, and that's when feedback's available now, and then your certificate is there. So we'd love some feedback too, to be able to pass on to Maria and the team as well about the course. So please feel free to be with your feedback as well.
Yeah.
Questions?
Oh, sorry, Kathy.
No, that's okay. The afternoon light is shining on me, I realise. But anyway, I guess if there's any...
I just want to make a comment on the feedback as well. So, yeah, certainly if you tell us if you aspects you like, the aspects you think could be changed. But I really want this group to put that lens of building capability and capacity in New Zealand of road safety fundamentals. So think of the content also in that lens of people newer to a lot of this stuff. Some of it I assume you probably knew, and a lot of it you maybe knew, but think, okay, are those fundamental things to start to understand and to know? And a lot of you are mentoring, young people in the industry. So give us some ideas. Also, the exercises that you thought really hammered home the principles we were trying to get across, or the processes, and any that you think maybe missed the mark, and we will tweak and adjust and try to make them make it as good as possible. But yeah, So I thank you in advance for any ideas or any just, if you think it was all great, we also want to hear that as well.
Excellent. I think there's no actual question. Yeah, so don't stress too much about the timeframes. Next Friday's ideal, but and Ken will do a big round of marking after that. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Yep, it's like the other courses. Your certificate doesn't release until you've finished it. So you can, if the world gets the better of you in timing, you can just let it slide a little bit. But we will follow you up and just check you're okay and see if we can help out after a while.
Yeah, good point, Ken. And if you do need a hand or anything like that, just get in touch with us as well this week.
Yeah, a hand or even a hint if you go, I'm struggling with the findings.
Yes, that's good. So actually we did have a question here. With concept plans, it's a bit harder to order as no details as in swept paths, line marking, etc. Do we more address possible concerns?
Yeah, actually that's something I wanted to bring up. So I do now have two things to bring up. Thank you for that. My experience is that you assume the worst as an auditor when you don't have the information. Because the worst thing would be to assume the best and they were going the worst, and it got proceeded along those lines. Another term we often use in road safety auditing is the plans are silent. Right? So you'd say the plans are silent on the swept paths. The auditors have some concerns about this. Consider, or check the swept paths. You may not even risk rate that. You might just say 2 note, right? But you've put it out there. You've looked at it and you've gone, well, not sure that's going to work. You put it out there. Things like traffic signals. If you're not giving phasing, assume that they're going to be filter control. They're not going to have fully controlled right turns. Assume that. Make them write in a document that they are going to do that. So that's that. Yeah. To concept level, you won't get enough information. You can make some assumptions. You can just note things. You can also say, been given no drainage details, unsure how it will drain, quite concerned about this if it's not done right because of the potential aquaplaning, or this could be this is looking very bad from a road safety perspective. And then you could just, your recommendation is pay special attention to that in detailed design. To note again, you don't have enough information to risk rate that. So that was one thing. And the other one is that I do feel that there were a few people who over risk rated. The way I always risk rate is to work backwards and say, if I come back here in 5 years' time and they've built that exactly that way, how many crashes, how many fatal or serious injury crashes do I expect because of that specific deficiency or failure? And if you go back that way, often the chance that that's going to happen gets reduced a bit. The reason I think this is really important is because if you come in with everything as intolerable risk or, whatever the worst is in the matrix, significant, everything's like that, kind of waters down the ones that are really, really bad. So we kind of want to provide that spectrum as well. So that's just a little way that you might frame your thinking.
Ken, just a couple of final questions in our dying minutes here. We've got one person whose site has been built with differences to the drawings, written a post-construction audit.
Beautiful.
Good. Yep. That's the right answer. Yep. Okay, great. And then just going back again to our legal side of things, if the client has made the decision not to treat a safety audit finding or to mitigate the issue and an accident happens, what level of liability does the client have?
Well, I again, not knowing the specifics of the legal system, if there's a if there's an expert report that comes in that recommends something, the road authority is obliged to consider that, or the client, the developer, it would be obliged to consider that and either put a rigorous case forward why it is incorrect or they disagree with it, or put a good case forward why they're not doing the recommended actions, they're doing others that meet and address that. But simply to not have done it is going to be, well, pretty exciting times for the prosecuting solicitors, because they got the smoking gun that they're looking for.
I think we are good. Thank you all for your nice comments. That's lovely. Have a lovely weekend and keep in touch.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ken. Great
Another
show
awesome New
once
Zealand
again.
group. Bye. Thanks for your wonderful participation. Thanks to Kathy as well.
Oh yeah. See ya.
Bye.